What's up, Renegades? Welcome to another episode of the Just Wingin' It podcast. I'm Tattoo Tom. This week's episode is brought to you in association with Alami Realty. Lou and Sue Alami. Please call them for all of your loan, buying, and selling needs. Lou and Sue Alami. There is a difference. There's a link in the comment section. So as many of you know, they call me Tattoo Tom. But for tonight's episode, I think I want to try something a little different. I don't want to present tonight's episode to you as Tattoo Tom. I think I'd rather talk to you tonight as just Tom. In fact, I got an even better idea. Tonight, I think instead of all of that, instead of the fancy microphone and all of that, I got no producer here tonight. I got no camera guy. I'm shooting this on my iPhone, so I think tonight, instead of Tattoo Tom, I just want to present this episode to you as Shayla's dad. 2009, my daughter Shayla died from Hodgkin's lymphoma. And when she died, I wondered why somebody didn't do something. Then I realized I am somebody. So I started doing some things. And last Tuesday, on March 30th, 2021, I did something. And I brought some folks with me. We went down to the National Institutes of Health compound in Bethesda, Maryland, which also houses the National Cancer Institute. Now, it's important to note at the very beginning of this that of all of the billions of dollars that Congress appropriates annually for cancer research and cancer drug development, federal money, taxpayer money, your money, and my money goes to the National Cancer Institute through the National Institutes of Health. They're the ones who, for reasons and through systems known only to them, they have determined that 4%, in some cases, well, okay, let me be honest. They have determined that somewhere between, I've heard a lot of numbers, somewhere between 3.5 and I've heard other people say 7%. So the rallying cry within the childhood cancer community has sort of been 4%. So that is to say, of all the billions of dollars that are appropriated annually, taxpayer dollars, the National Cancer Institute only earmarks 4% of that money for childhood cancers. Now, children get different cancers than adults, but the National Cancer Institute thinks that our children are only worth 4%. Now, that's a frightening status quo for them to have developed and stuck with for at least the past decade that I've been in the childhood cancer community, because essentially what that means is they have determined that there's an acceptable amount of children who can die annually from childhood cancer before they're going to increase that budget. In other words, there's an acceptable amount of dead children that is the status quo at the National Cancer Institute. That number is approximately 7 children a day in the United States alone. Now, many of you may be thinking, as I probably would have back in the day, 7 children doesn't sound like a whole lot in the scheme of things. Maybe it's not, right? Until you look at how many children that equates to annually. At the end of every year, based on that number 7, we lose the equivalent of 5 entire elementary schools of children to childhood cancer. That's 5 average size elementary schools of children. Gone. Dead. Again, that is the accepted status quo at the National Cancer Institute, and essentially, it's the accepted status quo in these United States of America. And if you don't do anything about it, it's your accepted status quo as well. And I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but sometimes the truth is harsh. And in this case, it is. Now, it may just be that you're not aware of this, and that's why I'm here tonight. And that's why we went to the National Cancer Institute, because many of us are aware of it, and we would like all of you to be aware of it, and we would like the National Cancer Institute to know that their status quo has got to go. For us, particularly those of us who have lost children, there is no acceptable number of dead children. Now, if that 4 to 7% were enough, then we'd be getting some results, you would think. correct? Surely there would be new, better, less toxic, state-of-the-art medicines being developed every moment of every day, right? Wrong. We're still using 20, 30, 40, even 50-year-old chemotherapies to treat our children. When my daughter was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2007, she was offered 30-year-old medicines. Doxorubicin, which has developed the nickname the Red Devil because it's red in color, like Kool-Aid, and it can and does have a toxic effect on the heart muscle, often leading to heart failure, as was the case with my daughter. Vincristine, not a very nice medicine either. A lot of side effects from both of those two medicines that I just mentioned. But if your daughter today, 12 years after the death of my daughter, if your son or daughter were diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma today, you're probably thinking, well, there must have been major advancements in the past 12 years since your daughter passed away. Well, here's the irony and the not so funny part is, no, there hasn't been one single thing done. There's not one new drug to treat Hodgkin's lymphoma 12 years after my daughter was given 30-year-old medicines. So essentially, that 4% has done absolutely nothing, not one single thing for Hodgkin's lymphoma, at least in the past 12 years. Not to mention any of the other 25 plus, I don't even know how many offshoots of those 25 childhood cancers there are, but there's many. So I don't know where the progress is being made, but it doesn't appear to be being made anywhere. So 4% is not enough. And we as a group went down to the National Cancer Institute to let them know, in no uncertain terms, that we were sick and tired of going to the funerals of children, particularly our own children and our friends' children and our children's friends. We're sick and tired of it. And we want their status quo to change. And at the very least, we wanted them to come out and address us and explain to us how we were wrong and how that 4% was enough and how they're making great progress and great strides and children aren't really dying and it's all in our fucking imagination. But that's not true. And I digress, and I'm sorry, but this is a real point of contention for me. Because in this country, we're so quick to rally behind stupid shit like Mr. Potato Head, right? But so many of us turn a blind eye when it comes to our children dying at an alarming rate, year after year after year. We have accepted that same status quo. And I'm not sure why. When COVID hit, now we were talking about two completely different things. COVID was affecting many more people than childhood cancer, and I'm not oblivious to that fact. COVID is a virus. Cancer is not. However, we threw billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars at trying to develop a vaccine, and in virtually no time we did. Okay, because that's how things work. The more time, effort, energy, and money you invest into it, the more and faster you get successful results. But this 4% is not doing that, and it's a status quo again. Now you use that term euphemistically a bunch tonight because it is exactly what it is. It's the acceptable amount of dead children. It's the norm, and so we went down to the National Cancer Institute. And I was a little disheartened because a lot of people, when we posted the Facebook event that we were going down to the National Cancer Institute, because this 4% rallying cry has been going on for the past decade, and everybody uses it in the childhood cancer community to raise money for their individual foundations and their own agendas. But it's almost as if we in the childhood cancer community, to some degree, have accepted the status quo as well. Because when it came time for people to show up, there wasn't a lot of people there. A lot of people said they were coming on the Facebook event page, and then they didn't. And I get it. Sometimes emergencies pop up, but let's be honest. I mean, how many of the people that didn't show up really didn't show up because of an emergency? Maybe it was more like something better came up or something different came up. And I digress in that too, because those of us in the childhood cancer community, we're well aware that, when our children were first diagnosed, the entire community rallied around us. Team Shayla, we got this. The first week, everybody in the school showed up at the hospital, and there were phone calls and letters and balloons. And 4 or 5 months later, there's a whole lot less people showing up and calling. They had gone back to their own lives. And 6 months later, a whole lot less. And then a year later, it was my daughter and I and maybe one other person sitting in the hospital room alone. And that's not unique unto me and my daughter. That's pretty much the norm in the childhood cancer community. So I wasn't completely distraught by the fact that people said they were going to come and didn't, because the fact of the matter too is that everybody wants to be a renegade till it comes time to do renegade shit. And then people get busy and people forget and emergencies pop up, and we'll be there in spirit. And no, there's no such thing as being there in spirit. You're either there or you're not. But I don't want to bash the people who weren't there. I want to celebrate the people who were, because there was a core group of people who showed up to have their voices heard. And it was a really good cross-section of the childhood cancer community. You had parents like myself who had lost children to cancer. We had childhood cancer survivors. And in many cases, many of the girls that were there had developed secondary cancers and other side effects, horrible side effects from the chemotherapy that rid them of their initial cancer. We were also graced with the presence of some children that were still in treatment. There was a young lady that I got to know named Kellen, and you're going to see her in this upcoming clips and footage that we're going to show you. And she and I are friends, and she's going to be a guest on this podcast in the next couple of weeks. And she was powerful. It's rare, if ever. I'm getting goosebumps. It's rare, if ever, that I am as moved as I was by this young lady. And I only wish that the National Cancer Institute had been equally moved, but they were not. We begged them and pleaded them and screamed on a bullhorn and invited them out, asked them humbly, please come out, help us understand, you're all we've got. Please come out, and they didn't. And much like the people who didn't show up, I really didn't expect them to be honest with you. I didn't expect them to come out and address us. They never have. Why would they? But that didn't stop us, and we marched, and we screamed, and we chanted, and we protested for a couple of hours, and we got some footage that we're going to show you, and the National Cancer Institute did not come out, and we let them know. We tagged them in everything leading up to the event, and humbly asked them to please send somebody out in authority to help us understand, because we don't understand. Because I don't understand. And I want to understand. Because I don't think that the National Cancer Institute is my enemy. But they're damn sure not my friends. They're not the enemy of the childhood cancer community. I'll give you that. But they're not our friends. If they were our friends, they would recognize and admit and acknowledge that 4% is not working. And they would give more. 10%, 20%, 30%. Would it kill them to try that? It's damn sure killing our children that they won't. So anyways, there we were, marching, chanting, begging, screaming, a lot of it falling upon deaf ears, but we're hoping that you'll see the footage tonight and you'll be moved and you'll be motivated and you'll want to do a renegade and be a renegade, and you'll have the wherewithal to not just want to be a renegade, but you'll have the wherewithal to do renegade shit and show up at the next rally. The next rally is going to be June 15th, 2 days after what would have been my daughter Shayla's birthday. Her birthday, she was born on June 13th, and we're going to go back on June 15th. And we're going to do much the same that we did this last time. We're going to demand answers. We're going to invite somebody to come out and speak to us. What I'm hoping is, my hope and my prayer is that many of you who are watching this tonight will show up. We did have, again, this amazing group of people. For as many local people as we have in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area who could have showed up and didn't, we had a woman who traveled all the way from New Mexico to be there at our rally. We had a couple of people from Philadelphia. We had a couple of people all the way from Connecticut. So people were coming. There were renegades who showed up. And if you want to know what a renegade is a person with their own philosophy. We changed the course of history. Everyday people like you and me, we're the renegades. You could be a renegade. It just takes the heart to want to affect the change and to step outside of the box and to let go of the status quo and to say you too are sick and tired of going to the funerals of children. Because I like to say, and I don't say it in a threatening kind of way, but I like to say, please don't look the other way or you'll be forced to march with us someday. Because it could happen to you the same way that happened to us. And if it does, we don't have anything better to offer you than was offered to our children. And we don't want that for your children. My daughter died in 2009. Jesus Christ, I didn't go to the National Cancer Institute for my daughter. No, man. I went for yours. For your son. For your daughter. On June 15th, I'm going to need your help. I'm going to need you to show up and do renegade shit. All right. So we know that 4% is not enough. We don't know what the right number is. We don't know if it's 5, 10, 20, 30, 50% of the budget. But we know that there has to be more appropriated, and we need to demand it. The National Cancer Institute, at the end of the day, the bottom line is they're not being good stewards with our money. Period. End of discussion. It doesn't need to go beyond that, and except for the fact that they have an accepted status quo of a number of dead children that is acceptable to them, and that number currently is the equivalent of 5 entire elementary schools of children every year. Are you comfortable with that status quo? Because the National Cancer Institute essentially works for you. You pay their salaries with your tax dollars, so you should have a say in it. And you do. And you can if you show up and on June 15th. So the last thing I'm going to want to say is we in the childhood cancer community have spent a lot of time and effort and energy over the past decade that I've been involved, and I think it's probably gone on a lot longer than that, with this sort of Go Gold campaign. And while I know that the intention is to sort of do what the breast cancer movement did with pink and use the color gold as a marketing awareness mechanism, device, vehicle to make people aware of the things that I'm telling you now, so that we can get more money for funding and more money and funding for research, and hopefully, and more research will lead to better, less toxic treatments, and hopefully eventually a cure. But the fact of the matter is that over the past decade, this Go Gold campaign really isn't working. Trying to ride on the coattails of the pink movement has just really made a bunch of us really angry, and we get indignant that the country won't embrace our children the same way that they embraced women. And I have no beef with the breast cancer pink movement. I think it was marketing coup. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. It really helped to improve the treatments for women who suffered from breast cancer. And we want that same thing. But the holy grail of the Go Gold movement had always been to get the White House to go gold. And I've got some friends who I respect greatly who put forth their blood, sweat, and tears in an effort to get everything to turn gold. And the White House especially was the holy grail, because the White House had turned gold for other things, like breast cancer. They turned pink for gay rights. They turned rainbow lights, just basically put lights in front of the White House. We just wanted them to put gold lights. We thought that if the White House did that something would happen. I'm not sure what we thought, but we thought something would happen. Well, finally, last year, whether you like the administration or not, it's irrelevant, but the last administration did turn the White House gold. They turned on gold lights in September, and we were all so excited, and we just wanted to explode with gratitude and hope and everything. But the reality is, do you know what happened after that? Not a goddamn thing happened. Nothing. The White House went gold, and then nothing happened. There was no money appropriated, no extra money appropriated. There was no additional awareness raised. Most people, and many of you probably, if you're not in the childhood cancer community, you didn't even know the White House went gold. You wouldn't even know what go gold means. So I'm only bringing that up because it's not working. Go gold isn't going nowhere. It hasn't in the 10 years that I've been involved in the childhood cancer community, and I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. So please, by all means, continue it. It's great rallying cry too, much like 4%, but we really need to go green. We really need money. And the National Cancer Institute is our current hope. There's a lot of smaller foundations that I respect greatly who are making some remarkable, generous grants within their capabilities, but it's just not enough. It's tens of thousands of dollars, and we need billions of dollars, not just tens of thousands. And I think we can get it if we demand it. So join us, if you would, at the next Renegade Rally for Childhood Cancer at the National Cancer Institute in Bethesda, Maryland on June 15th. There will be a link in the comment section to the Facebook event page, and we'll probably be talking about it quite a bit in each episode leading up to that rally. So without further ado, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you the footage from the rally, and I want you to listen to the interviews, and I want you to see the look in the people's faces, the desperation, the sadness, and also the frustration and the anger. And I want you to pay particular attention to my friend Kellen, and you'll see why.
We're here for my three best friends, Hannah, Sydney, and Lily. Sydney fought leukemia twice, and Hannah just went to remission for lymphoma. Lily's still fighting a brain tumor, and she doesn't receive proper treatment, and it's really harsh. So harsh that she had to stop chemotherapy because of the side effects were so terrible and just destroying her body.
You know, I think the conversation needs to be started on alternative methods of treatment. So,
exactly.
But the people who are treating her have been nothing but short of wonderful.
Children's Hospital of Philadelphia is great, but childhood cancer needs more research to find different treatments.
With cancer, got it rough.
Kids with cancer got it rough.
4% is not enough.
4% is not enough.
Cancer, not my friend. I need you to come out. I need you to tell me why 4% is okay. When I don't have to go to any more funerals, I won't come back here. You're rendering me speechless, because I don't even know what to say. I shouldn't even be having this conversation with you. It should be 60% going to children. It should be 70% going to children. You want to make you wonder why? What's the politics behind it all?
Tell me why I'm graduating high school next year, and my friend didn't even make it the freshman year. I am tired, and I'm not the only one, and I want answers.
You got a status quo. It's no good, bro. Your status quo has got to go. Because my daughter was one of the casualties of your status quo. She should be standing here today with me. Really, neither one of us should be standing here at all. But you've done nothing to treat her particular type of cancer.
Hi, my name is Angie. I'm from Loudoun County, Virginia. This is Ava, and this is Ava's big sister, Sara. Sara had germinoma brain cancer. She was diagnosed when she was 14 years old. She did chemo, radiation, and went into remission. On her 18th birthday, she relapsed, and unfortunately, she ended up dying from a brain cancer that was supposed to be very treatable. So I am the director of Sara's Acts of Kindness, and we are raising money for a research grant because there isn't enough money for childhood cancer research. So we are trying to get more research dollars into researchers' hands to keep her name alive. And Sara was so important to us and so precious, and she's still part of our everyday lives. and we just miss her so much, and we just want to see no more children die of cancer when it should be treatable.
Well, my name's Kellen McLean. I'm 19, but I was diagnosed with AML when I was 15, and my life totally changed. I was like a D1 level athlete, getting ready to go to finishing high school, looking at colleges, getting offers, to play soccer and beach volleyball. And then I was in a hospital bed getting poisoned with crap derived from mustard gas for 8 months. And then I was just kind of thrown out into the world with all these horrible side effects. And the NCI only gave childhood cancer 4% of the funds that year.
I've tried every treatment you have for my cancer, and it keeps coming back. I am out of options. There is nothing left for me unless you give us more than 4 to find a new treatment.
And the next year when I was recovering, they gave us less than 4% again. And then I relapsed, and I had to go through a bone marrow transplant, which was even more brutal and intense and completely tore my body to shreds. And we only got 4%. And the next year, same thing. And then I relapsed again because, the treatments that we're getting suck. They're 50 years old, and nobody's really studying it because it's a rare cancer. But it's not that rare because I know tons of kids who get it. And tons of kids who die from it. And we still only get 4% for all childhood cancers. Tell me what? I can't think of any reason why that's acceptable.
Dear NCI, my name is Tom Mitchell. They call me Tattoo Tom. You probably know who I am. If you don't, better find out, because you're going to be hearing a lot more from me. This is not the only day I'm coming out. This doesn't end today. This is only the beginning. There's a lot of people here with me today. There's going to be twice as many people here next time. 4 times as many people here the time after that. And if I've got to keep coming back here day after day after day, year after year after year, I will. I want to introduce you to Sara. This is Sara. Sara was a friend of mine. I know what you're thinking. That doesn't look like it. It's not a kid. It used to be Sara. Now it's Sara's ashes. Because that's all that's left of Sara. Sara wasn't a number. She wasn't a statistic. She wasn't your status quo. She was my friend. And I loved her a great deal. And she loved me a great deal. And she's gone. She's dead. And it might not be your fault, but you have the power, and you have the control, and you have the money to change things. And you won't. And you don't. And we don't understand why. So Sara's mom wanted me to make sure that Sara showed up today. So I want you to watch this. Every day, when you walk through these doors on your way out, you're going to be walking through Sara's ashes. I want you to think about that. All y'all. The doctors, the nurses, the janitors, everybody. You have the power to make a difference. Please don't look the other way, or you sons of bitches will be marching with us someday. If 4% was getting you any kind of results, our children wouldn't be dying. That math is not working. It didn't work 10 years ago. It's not working 10 years today. My daughter was treated with 30 and 40-year-old chemotherapies.
rarely, if ever, am I at a loss for words. But I think, like many of you, I'm at a loss for words right now. I could spend the next 5 hours talking and throwing tired, boring statistics at you. But what you just saw, I think, speaks louder and more to the point than anything I could say or anything that I could come up with. Did you hear the tone in the voice of my friend Kellen? Kellen's going to be on the Just Winging It podcast 2 weeks from today, so I would encourage you to come back and listen to her. We're going to have a pretty aggressive conversation, I'm quite sure. So I just want to thank you guys for being here today as Shayla's dad. And I just want to say one more time, I didn't go to the National Cancer Institute for my daughter. She died in 2009. I went for your daughter because I don't want you or your children to have to go through what me and my daughter went through, and all of the people that you saw in that video and in that footage. We don't want that for you. So we need your help. So follow the link in the comment section, go to the Facebook event page, and push the going button, and then fucking go. Don't just push the going button until something better comes up or until something else comes up. It's time to do renegade shit, and we need you. All right. So I don't want to leave you guys with all this heaviness. So we're going to go to a segment that we started last week that we like, and it's sort of a nice, exit plan. So when we do have episodes that are intense and heavy, that we don't leave you in that, because life is breathtakingly beautiful despite the fact that it's not always pretty. And we believe that, and we believe in hope. So anyways, with that being said, we have a segment on the show called Who Is This Dude Anyway? And basically what this segment is, and many of you who don't know me are already saying, who is this dude anyway? Who the hell does he think he is? What makes him think he's an authority on childhood cancer? What makes him think he's an authority on anything? Why does he even have a podcast? Well, the short answer to that is I really don't know, okay? Nobody's more surprised than me that I'm here doing this today, okay? I just show up and wing it. That's all that I'm doing. But anyways, in this segment, Who Is This Dude Anyway? We'll give you an opportunity to learn a little bit about me. Going to find out a little bit about my childhood, books that I read, movies that inspired me, people that I met that sort of mentored me or encouraged me, music that I listened to, music that I performed, any number of things that sort of sculpted and made and sort of, fired me into the person that I am today. And so I'm going to go ahead and share a book with you that I read as a little boy. Actually, it was my very first chapter book, my very first big boy book. And when I read it, at the time, it blew my mind. I was probably 7-8 years old, and it's not a great big long novel. It's a small novella, and it's called Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach. And the thing about this book that's so amazing is I just reread it before when I decided to use it as the book for this segment. I just reread it, and one of the comments from people that had reviewed the book was from Ray Bradbury, and Ray Bradbury made a comment about this book at the time it was written. He said something to the effect of, after reading this book by Richard Bach, it made me feel two things. It made me feel like I could fly, and it made me feel young. Now, when I read this book originally, it didn't quite make me feel that way. It made me feel like I could fly, and it made me feel like I was important. But I just reread the book, and damn it, Ray Bradbury was right, because I still believe I can fly. And this book made me, for a second, it took me back to that little boy full of wonder and desire and hope and all of the things that little boys are filled with. And for that moment, I was young again. It was rad. It was amazing. But what I like about this book, both then and now, is that Jonathan Livingston Seagull was a renegade in every sense of the word. Now, most of the seagulls just were very content and very happy to go about their daily business, eating fish and sleeping and doing, seagull stuff. Jonathan Livingston's seagull was not like that. Those things bored him. He wanted to fly. Not just fly because seagulls fly. He wanted to fly like a hawk or a falcon, fast and hard, and break speed records. And he wanted to know how his feathers worked and how his body worked. And all the other gulls just cared about eating and getting fat. And not Jonathan Livingston's seagull. He was different. And the thing about that different was that the flock didn't like him. And they didn't like the fact that he wouldn't just conform to their status quo. So they kicked him out of the flock. And he had to spend the rest of his days alone. He was saddened by this, but he was unwilling to give in and give up on himself and his beliefs for the sake of the flock and conforming and for the sake of the status quo. So he went on to teach himself to fly just like a falcon or a hawk. Now, I don't want to ruin the book for you in its entirety because he does a lot of amazing, amazing things once he's kicked out of the flock. He touches a lot of people and he helps, touches a lot of birds, I guess is a better way to say it. But he touches a lot of lives, and it's important. It's almost as if he is a bodhisattva of sorts. Certainly, he is a renegade, and it's not surprising, having read this again recently, that my brain works the way that it does today, based on this book and some of the other books I'm going to share with you. It's starting to make sense because this is essentially, one of the first pieces of literature that I picked up, and it blew me away, and it wowed me, and it also gave me permission to not conform, and to follow my passions, and to follow my obsessions, and to follow my dreams with all the wherewithal that I could muster. And so I'm thankful for this book. I'm grateful to Jonathan Livingston Seagull. I would commend this book to you. I would commend this book to your children. Many of you have read it. We'll put a link in the comment section to Amazon or something so you can pick it up. I'm not making any money off of it, but you guys should find it. It's a great book. This is my copy. I love it. I'm going to pass it on to my kids. May pass it on to some other kids, some other kids with cancer as well. It's a great book. It's a great read. So, a little more insight into who is this dude anyways. So next week, we're going to have another episode for you. Next week's episode is going to be about our race, about the Moab 240 ultramarathon through the Moab Desert and how you can be a part of it. And the following week, we're going to have Kellen on as our guest. So I want to thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the Just Wingin' It podcast with Tattoo Tom. I'm Tom, or Shayla's dad, and I want to thank you. And I'll see you guys next week. Still brave, Shayla. Still brave.